In 1979, Mike Mentzer won the Mr. Universe title with a perfect score. And what made it controversial wasn't his physique, it was how he built it. While his competitors were grinding through 2-a-day workouts 6 days a week, Mentzer was training just 2 or 3 times a week for about 30 to 45 minutes per session. He called his approach heavy duty, and it sparked a debate that's still raging in fitness circles today. Does training more actually build more muscle? Is more better? Or is there a point of diminishing returns where extra volume just digs you deeper into a recovery hole? Mentzer believed intensity was everything. Push to absolute failure, send the growth signal, then get out and recover. 45 years later, the research has caught up, and it turns out Mentzer was right about some things, but not everything. Today, I'll break down what the science actually shows about intensity versus volume, why this matters especially for men over 40, and how to apply these principles without all the dogma. Mentzer's philosophy came from a simple observation. You don't build muscle while you're lifting, you build muscle while you're recovering. Training is the stimulus, it sends the signal to the body to trigger the adaptive response. But the actual repair and growth happens during rest, when you're sleeping, eating, and letting the body do its work. If you train again before that repair process is complete, you're just accumulating damage without allowing for adaptation. Mentzer watched his competitors train for hours every day and saw them plateau, get injured, and burn out. Meanwhile, he was getting stronger with a fraction of the workout volume. His conclusion? Most people massively overtrain. They'd get better results doing less as long as that less was brutally intense. That wasn't just gym bro philosophy, there's real physiology behind it. When you train a muscle to genuine failure, the point where you literally cannot complete another rep in good form, you've recruited the maximum number of muscle fibers possible. You've sent the loudest possible signal for adaptation. Additional sets after that don't send a louder signal, they just dig deeper into your recovery resources. Mentzer's metaphor was a light switch. You only need to flip it once to turn on the light. Flipping it 10 more times doesn't make the room brighter. It's a compelling idea, and for certain populations, especially older trainees with limited recovery capacity, there's real wisdom in it. Let's give credit where credit is due. Mentzer was ahead of his time on several points. First, intensity matters more than most people think. Research by Dr. Brad Schoenfeld and others has confirmed that training close to failure is one of the most important variables for muscle growth. Sets that end several reps short of failure produce significantly less hypertrophy than sets taken to or near failure. If you're going to do less volume to save your time in your joints, you'd better make sure that what you do is genuinely hard. Second, recovery is chronically undervalued. Most recreational lifters don't recover as well as they think. They're sleeping just 6 hours per night, running on stress and caffeine, and wondering why they're not progressing despite working so hard. Well, Mentzer understood that training is only as good as your ability to recover from it. More is not better if you can't adapt to it. And third, older trainees have different needs. This is where Mentzer's philosophy becomes especially relevant for men over 40. Recovery capacity does decline with age. Research shows that older adults take longer to repair muscle damage and restore performance after intense training. Satellite cells, the cells largely responsible for muscle repair, become less responsive. What a 25-year-old can recover from in 48 hours might take a 50-year-old 72 to 96 hours. This doesn't mean older adults can't build muscle. They absolutely can, often at surprisingly similar rates to younger trainees. But it does mean the training frequency that works for a college athlete might be counterproductive for someone with a few more decades on them. Mentzer's emphasis on quality over quantity, intensity over volume, and adequate recovery time between sessions aligns well with what older trainees actually need. Now here's where the debate gets interesting. Critics of low-volume training point to research showing a dose-response relationship between training volume and muscle growth. Studies by Brad Schoenfeld and others suggest that more sets generally produce more hypertrophy, at least up to a point. And they're not wrong when you're lifting weights. And that's what those studies don't account for, the inherent inefficiency of barbells and dumbbells. Think about what happens during a typical repetition of a bench press as an example. You unrack the weight, you're holding it. Then you decrease your force production so the weight can descend, so you can let gravity do its thing. Then you press it up, working hard through your weak point near your chest. Then it gets easier as you continue up into mechanical advantage, finally sort of coasting to your strong point with a bit of momentum to help as you lock it out at the top. Now, this is important. What percentage of that rep involved your muscles working at their maximum capacity? The answer is 0. If there were any moments of maximum effort, well, we call that a 1 rep max. And you can only do 1, so that's not what we use for the workouts. The truth is your muscles were working with some fraction of their maximum capacity the whole time. The rest was momentum, gravity, and mechanical leverage advantage. So when researchers find that you need 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week to optimize growth with traditional weights, part of what they're measuring is the amount of workout volume required to compensate for all that wasted motion. Isokinetic exercise eliminates this wasted motion entirely. Constant speed means no momentum. Your muscles do 100% of the work through 100% of the movement. The resistance matches your force output, equal and opposite, at every moment. Every second is maximally productive. There was a study in 2021 done in Western Colorado University that put this to the test. They compared our 20-minute isokinetic protocol to traditional resistance training. Traditional training: longer sessions, more sets, standard equipment. Isokinetic training: 20 minutes, twice per week, controlled speed, constant tension, maximum effort. The results were not close. The isokinetic group about double the 1 rep max and 5 rep max strength increases seen in the weightlifting group. They lost significantly more body fat. They gained significantly more muscle. They even improved cardiovascular fitness more than 3 times as much. And crucially, they only trained for 6 hours over the course of the 12-week study, compared with 21 hours for the weightlifting group. Better results in a fraction of the time. Now, is one study definitive? No. We'd like to see more research comparing isokinetic protocols to traditional volume match training. That research largely doesn't exist yet. The exercise science world is still catching up to this technology. But the physics and biomechanics make sense. If you eliminate the underloaded, inefficient portions of every repetition, you should need less total volume to deliver the same stimulus. We're not saying volume doesn't matter, we're saying effective volume matters. And isokinetics deliver more effective volume per minute than traditional weights ever can. So how do you take what Mentzer got right while avoiding what he might have gotten wrong? Well, here's the framework. Prioritize intensity. However many sets you do, make sure they actually count. Training to failure or within 1 to 2 reps of failure ensures you're sending a strong adaptive signal. Half-hearted sets that end when it starts to feel uncomfortable are largely wasted effort. Respect recovery. More training is only better if you can recover from it. For men over 40, that often means training each muscle group hard once or twice per week, rather than trying to match the frequency of younger trainees. Pay attention to sleep, stress, and nutrition. These are not optional. They're where the actual adaptation happens. Find your minimum effective dose. There's a volume threshold below which you won't progress optimally. There's also a threshold above which additional volume just digs into recovery without adding any benefit. Your job is to find the minimum amount of training that produces the results that you want. For most people over 40, that's less than they think. Use appropriate tools. Mentzer was limited by the technology of his time. Barbells and dumbbells have some inherent limitations. They can't match your strength curve, and they require you to control momentum. Modern training tools like isokinetic devices that provide constant, matched resistance through the full range of motion can deliver a more efficient stimulus with less joint stress. You can achieve genuine intensity in less time and with less wear and tear. Here's why this matters practically. Most guys over 40 do not have 2 hours a day to spend in the gym. They have careers, families, responsibilities that make traditional bodybuilding routines unrealistic. But they also don't need 2 hours a day. If intensity is sufficient and recovery is adequate, significant muscle can be built with surprisingly little time investment. That Western Colorado University study found that 20-minute sessions twice per week produce greater strength gains than longer traditional training sessions. And it's not magic, it's just efficiency. When every rep is genuinely challenging, when you're training close to failure all of the time, when the resistance is appropriate for your strength at every point in the movement, you don't need endless volume. You need enough stimulus to trigger adaptation. Any more is counterproductive. Mentzer understood this intuitively. He just took it too far in some directions a little bit later in life and not far enough in others. The sweet spot for most men over 40 is somewhere in the middle. More intensity than average, less volume than traditional programs, and adequate recovery time in between sessions. Mentzer challenged the fitness orthodoxy of his time and paid a price for it. He was dismissed as a heretic by the high-volume establishment. 45 years later, the research has vindicated some of his core insights. Intensity matters enormously. Recovery is chronically undervalued. And more volume is not always better. But science has also shown where he overreached. Volume does contribute to hypertrophy. One set isn't necessarily optimal. Individual variation means no single approach works for everyone. The lesson isn't to follow Mentzer's program exactly, it's to take his core insight seriously. Train hard enough to send a real signal, then recover fully before you train again. For men over 40 with limited time and limited recovery capacity, that's not just good advice, it's the path to results that actually last.